If you enjoy stories of workplace triumphs and clever comebacks, hit that subscribe button now to join our community and never miss an episode. I'd been at the company for 2 years, grinding away in a mid-level role. My team was tasked with pitching a game-changing project to the execs. I spent weeks crafting an innovative idea, a streamlined process to boost efficiency by 30%. Late nights, endless research, and countless drafts went into it. I shared it with my manager, expecting support. He nodded, said it was interesting, and promised to review it. I felt hopeful, thinking this could be my big break. But days passed, and I heard nothing. My emails went unanswered. I figured he was busy. I kept working, trusting the process. Then, at the next team meeting, everything changed. My manager stood up, smiling confidently. He started presenting my idea, word for word, slide for slide. He claimed it as his own, and the room applauded. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. My idea, my sleepless nights, my breakthrough, stolen in broad daylight. I sat there, frozen, as colleagues praised him. He didn't even glance my way. I wanted to speak up, but doubt crept in. Would anyone believe me? I had no proof, just my word against his. He was my manager, after all, charismatic, well-connected. I was just another employee. I went home that night, replaying the meeting in my head. Anger mixed with disbelief. I'd trusted him, and he'd taken credit without a second thought. But I wasn't going to let this slide. I needed a plan. I started documenting everything: emails, drafts, timestamps. The next week, I requested a one-on-one with him. I kept my tone neutral, professional. I asked about the project's progress and casually mentioned my contribution. He brushed it off, saying it was a team effort. His smugness fueled my resolve. I knew I had to be strategic. Confronting him directly could backfire. He had the upper hand in the company hierarchy. Instead, I focused on gathering allies. I shared my story with a trusted colleague, Sarah, who'd seen my late-night work. She was outraged but cautioned me to tread carefully. I also reached out to the project's lead designer, who'd seen my early sketches. Slowly, I was building a case. The company's annual strategy meeting was approaching. It was a big deal. Executives, stakeholders, everyone who mattered would be there. My manager was slated to present his idea again, this time to the C-suite. I saw my chance. I couldn't just call him out. I needed to outsmart him. I spent days refining my original pitch, adding new data to make it undeniable. I also dug into the company's presentation archives. I found a way to subtly embed my name in the metadata of my original files. If anyone checked, they'd see the truth. I wasn't just fighting for credit, I was fighting for my career. The night before the strategy meeting, I couldn't sleep. My stomach churned with nerves and anticipation. I rehearsed my plan over and over. I'd requested a small speaking slot, claiming I had supporting insights for the project. My manager approved it, probably thinking I'd just fluff his ego. He had no idea what was coming. I prepared a concise, powerful slide deck that highlighted my contributions without directly accusing him. It was a tightrope walk, professional but undeniable. I also looped in Sarah, who agreed to back me up if needed. The stakes were high, but I was ready. The meeting room was packed. Executives, directors, and my team, all eyes on the stage. My manager took the podium, radiating confidence. He launched into the pitch, basking in the attention. I waited in the wings, heart pounding. When my turn came, I stepped up calmly. I thanked my manager for building on my initial concept. I presented my slides, emphasizing my research and my data. The room stirred. I saw his face tighten. I kept my tone collaborative, but the evidence was clear. The metadata in the files sealed it. My name was everywhere. The executives started asking questions. They weren't directed at my manager. They were aimed at me. I answered confidently, diving into the details only the true creator would know. My manager tried to interject, but he fumbled. He didn't have the depth I did. Sarah chimed in, casually mentioning my late-night work sessions. The room's energy shifted. The CEO asked me to elaborate on the project's origins. I laid it out. Dates, drafts, emails. No accusations, just facts. My manager's face was a mask of panic. I stayed composed, letting the truth do the talking. By the end of the meeting, the executives were impressed with me. They praised my initiative and asked me to lead a follow-up discussion. My manager was sidelined, forced to smile and nod. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth had won. After the meeting, colleagues approached me, whispering their support. Some had suspected my manager's move but stayed silent. Now they saw me differently. I'd stood up, not with anger, but with strategy. I'd reclaimed my work without burning bridges. It felt like justice, but I wasn't done yet. The next day, my manager called me into his office. He tried to play it off, saying we'd miscommunicated. I didn't argue, I just nodded and let him talk. He offered me a minor role on the project, probably to save face. I politely declined. I'd already been invited to present directly to the execs again. My plan had worked, but I knew he'd try to spin this. I kept documenting everything, every email, every conversation. I wasn't going to let him rewrite the narrative. My focus now was on leveraging this win to move up. Word spread fast. Colleagues started coming to me for advice, seeing me as someone who could navigate corporate games. I didn't just want credit, I wanted influence. I proposed a new initiative tied to the project, one that would showcase my leadership. The execs greenlit it within days. I was no longer just a name in the metadata, I was a name they trusted. My manager's reputation took a hit, but I stayed professional. I didn't need to tear him down. I'd already risen above him. This was corporate justice, full circle. The project gained traction, and I was now leading a small team to implement it. The execs gave me a direct line to report progress, bypassing my manager entirely. I could feel his resentment, but I kept my focus on the work. My team was motivated, and I made sure everyone's contributions were recognized. I wasn't going to repeat my manager's mistake. I shared credit generously, building loyalty and trust. Meanwhile, I kept refining the project, adding features I'd held back initially. It was becoming bigger than I'd imagined. The company started buzzing about it. My manager tried to insert himself back into the spotlight. He'd show up to meetings, offering vague guidance. I let him talk, but I steered the conversation back to the data. His lack of depth was obvious. Colleagues noticed, and some even rolled their eyes. I didn't call him out. I didn't need to. The execs were watching, and they saw who was driving results. I also started mentoring junior team members, sharing my story as a cautionary tale. I wanted them to know how to protect their work. 3 months later, the project launched internally. It was a success. Efficiency metrics exceeded our projections. The CEO name-dropped me in an all-hands meeting. My manager sat in the back, silent. I felt a quiet satisfaction, but I stayed humble. I thanked my team publicly and privately. I also reached out to the execs with a detailed report, ensuring my name was tied to every milestone. I wasn't just playing defense anymore. I was building a legacy. My manager's influence was fading, and he knew it. I also started training my team on advanced analytics to sustain the project's momentum. This ensured we stayed ahead of the curve, cementing our success. I started getting invites to high-level strategy sessions. My ideas were now heard directly by decision-makers. I pitched a follow-up project, tying it to the company's long-term goals. It was approved on the spot. My manager wasn't even in the room. I could have gloated, but that wasn't my style. Instead, I focused on delivering. I knew the corporate world rewarded results, not grudges. Still, I kept an eye on my manager. He was too quiet, and I didn't trust his silence. I began cross-training my team to handle any disruptions he might attempt. This kept us prepared and united, no matter what came next. Sure enough, he tried one last move. He sent an email to the execs, claiming he'd mentored me through the project. I saw it coming. I'd saved every email, every draft, every timestamp. I forwarded the execs a polite, fact-based response with evidence of my independent work. I didn't accuse him. I let the documents speak. The execs didn't reply to him. Instead, they asked me to present at the next board meeting. His attempt backfired, and I was now firmly in the driver's seat. I also shared my evidence with HR, ensuring a paper trail. This protected me from any future claims he might make. The board meeting was a turning point. I presented with confidence, outlining the project's impact and future potential. The board loved it. They asked me to lead a cross-departmental task force. My manager wasn't invited. I could see the writing on the wall. He was being sidelined. Colleagues started joking about his mentorship email behind his back. I stayed out of the gossip, focusing on my new role. I also began collaborating with other departments to align our goals. This strengthened the task force and boosted my credibility across the company. My new role gave me access to the company's inner circle. I networked with senior leaders, always prepared with data and ideas. I also kept mentoring my team, ensuring they felt valued. I knew how it felt to be overlooked, and I wasn't going to let that happen to them. My manager's presence in meetings dwindled. He was still my boss on paper, but everyone knew I was calling the shots. I didn't rub it in. I just kept pushing forward. I also started documenting best practices for the task force. This ensured our work would have a lasting impact, no matter who led in the future. 6 months after the strategy meeting, I got a call from HR. They offered me a promotion to a role parallel to my manager's. It came with a team, a budget, and real authority. I accepted without hesitation. My manager wasn't consulted. He was informed after the fact. I moved into my new office, just down the hall from his. I could have been petty, but I took the high road. I invited him to collaborate on a minor project, knowing he'd decline. He did. I also streamlined my team's workflow to maximize efficiency. This kept us focused and set a standard for the new role. The promotion came with a chance to rewrite the narrative. I made it a point to credit my team in every meeting. I also shared my story with new hires, framing it as a lesson in resilience. I didn't name my manager, but the message was clear: protect your work, and don't let anyone steal your shine. The project's success kept growing, and so did my influence. I was now a go-to person for big ideas. My manager's name barely came up anymore. I also started a feedback loop with my team to keep improving. This ensured we stayed innovative and responsive to challenges. By the end of the year, the company announced a restructuring. My manager was reassigned to a smaller role in another department. It wasn't a demotion on paper, but everyone knew what it meant. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. I'd won by outworking him, not by tearing him down. My team threw a small party for the project's 1-year anniversary. I gave a speech, thanking everyone who'd supported me. The execs were there, nodding in approval. I also proposed a team recognition program to the execs. This ensured future contributions would be celebrated company-wide. With my manager out of the picture, I took on bigger challenges. The task force I led became a cornerstone of the company's strategy. I was now shaping company policy, not just projects. I kept my approach collaborative, ensuring everyone's voice was heard. My reputation grew, not just as a strategist but as a leader who valued fairness. I also started a mentorship program for junior employees. I wanted to create a culture where ideas were safe. The company noticed, and so did the industry. I expanded the mentorship to include cross-departmental training. This built stronger connections across the company, amplifying our impact. I got an offer from a competitor, a bigger role, better pay. I considered it but decided to stay. I wasn't done building here. The company had invested in me, and I wanted to see it through. I negotiated a raise and more resources for my team instead. The execs agreed without hesitation. I was now a key player, someone they couldn't afford to lose. My manager's name was a distant memory, a cautionary tale for others. I also secured funding for team development programs. This ensured my team had the tools to grow and succeed long-term. The project's success led to industry recognition. I was invited to speak at a conference, sharing our process with other companies. I prepared meticulously, knowing this was a chance to cement my legacy. My talk was a hit, and I got offers to consult on the side. I declined, focusing on my team and the company. But the exposure opened doors. Recruiters started reaching out, and I was flattered but grounded. I knew where my value lay. I also shared my conference slides with my team for feedback. This kept them engaged and inspired their own professional growth. Back at the company, I proposed a new initiative to protect intellectual contributions. It included a system for tracking idea ownership, something I wished I'd had early on. The execs loved it and rolled it out company-wide. I was tasked with overseeing its implementation. It felt like poetic justice. My experience was now shaping policy. I made sure the system was fair, transparent, and easy to use. It became a model for other firms. I also trained managers on using the system effectively. This ensured its adoption and success across all levels. My team grew, and so did my responsibilities. I was now mentoring managers, not just junior employees. I shared my story selectively, using it to teach others how to navigate corporate politics. I emphasized strategy over emotion, evidence over accusations. My manager's reassignment was a distant memory, but his actions stayed with me. They fueled my drive to create a better workplace. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. I also launched a quarterly review of team contributions. This kept everyone motivated and ensured no one's work went unnoticed. The company's culture started shifting. People spoke up more, knowing their ideas were protected. I saw junior employees pitching with confidence, unafraid of being overshadowed. My mentorship program grew, and I was invited to speak at internal leadership retreats. I shared lessons from my journey, focusing on resilience and strategy. The execs started calling me a culture carrier. It was a title I wore proudly. I also introduced anonymous feedback channels for employees. This gave everyone a voice, further strengthening the culture. 2 years after the original theft, I was promoted again. This time, I was leading an entire division. My team had grown from 5 to 50, and our projects were setting industry standards. I still checked in with Sarah, who'd been there from the start. She was now a manager herself, inspired by my journey. We laughed about the old days, but we both knew the stakes had been real. I'd turned a betrayal into a triumph, and it felt good. I also established a diversity initiative for leadership roles. This ensured more voices were represented at the top. I never saw my old manager again. Rumor had it he'd left the company quietly. I didn't care enough to confirm. My focus was on the future. New projects, new challenges, new wins. I'd built a reputation as someone who could deliver under pressure. The execs trusted me with high-stakes initiatives, and I delivered every time. My story became a quiet legend in the company, a reminder that justice could prevail. I also started a company-wide innovation challenge. This encouraged everyone to pitch ideas, knowing they'd be protected. Looking back, I realized how far I'd come. I'd turned a stolen idea into a career-defining moment. I didn't just reclaim my work, I redefined my place in the company. I learned to play the corporate game without losing myself. I stayed true to my values, even when it was hard. I built alliances, gathered evidence, and let the truth speak for itself. My journey wasn't just about winning, it was about creating a legacy of fairness and resilience. I also wrote an internal guide on workplace advocacy. This empowered others to stand up for their contributions confidently. Now, I'm leading with purpose, knowing I've earned my seat at the table. My story isn't just mine, it's a blueprint for anyone who's been overlooked or underestimated. Corporate justice isn't handed to you, you have to claim it. I did, and I'm not stopping. If you've ever been in my shoes, know this, your work matters, and so do you. Stay sharp, stay strategic, and never let anyone steal your shine. This is my story of full circle, my idea, my victory, my legacy. I'm still writing the next chapter, and it's only getting better. Thanks for listening to my story. If you loved this tale of corporate justice, smash that subscribe button and join our community for more inspiring stories. Don't miss out. Let's keep the conversation going.